They are young, energetic, and creative. They are delicate and must be nurtured for a brighter future. They are the Y, Generation Youth. They make up 70% of the Kenyan population. They are educated, tech-savvy, energetic, but they can't seem to find a means to earn a living.
Kenyans ought to work.
Yaani hii kazi yangu in short nilianza na Sultano. Unaona? Na sasa kutoka kwa Sultano, wacha tu niseme Mungu ametenda maajabu.
Ile sababu nafanya vijana wako idle mtaani kwa sababu ya space hakuna ya kuexercise nguvu yao na kuexercise ile knowledge wako nayo mtaani, kwa sababu unapata mara mingi zile kampuni ziko Kenya lazima iwe uko na Godfather pale.
There's no way ambao nature itakuja kubadilisha life yako. It is you to change your life.
Health services, security, employment are three issues that feature strongly on the wish list of many Kenyans. Unemployment cuts across and continues to be a concern to many Kenyans. The country's unemployment is placed at 70%. According to the UNDP report, 80% of the country's population are below 34 years, which means the country's most productive age group are unproductive and wasting their most productive years.
An empowered youth is a young person who has the ability and capacity to make choices, because a human being who is not able to make choices then is not empowered.
Empowerment is being able to elevate young people to access the opportunities available to the society. It is also having them on the decision-making table to speak for themselves.
There are many problems that face young people, especially young people from the slums. But key, I would say, a lack of education. If you look at access, and I mean young people who are able to even gain access, get primary education in the slum, we only have a small percentage of young people, like about I think 50 to 60,000. I mean 50 to 60% of young people from the slum.
I think you asked me about the problems we see. The first one definitely will be the problem of unemployment. And for that, it's not just a problem in Kenya, it's a problem in the continent, and it is a problem in the globe. In some places, I mean, the only difference is I would call it the manifestation of the problem and the cause of the problem. In some places, I was talking to a colleague in Sweden the other day. It is because the youth do not have an interest in working. They get a stipend anyway from their parents and from the government and from whatever, so they don't need to work. In some places, it is because there are no opportunities for young people to access jobs. Places like Kenya. Generally, in this continent, we also have an education system that does not necessarily address the market demands. And therefore, young people are being turned out of learning institutions and are not able to take up the jobs that are available.
Basically means young people from the slums are consigned to perpetual poverty. They'll be poor forever because you cannot get education, quality education, or you cannot get education for that matter. And if you cannot get education, then chances of you getting employment in the current system, then it becomes so difficult. And so basically means you inherited poverty from your parents. The same poverty is what you're going to hand down to your children.
Poor education systems that we have, which of course are not equipping young people with skills to be able to participate economically in the development of our continent and even our country, Kenya, but are also not able to substantially contribute to the governance agenda. Half the time we see young people engaging in governance, either engaging in street protests, probably shouting down some politician or that kind of thing. But you rarely see constructive discussions on the boardroom table where youth are seated and discussing equally with other groups of citizens. This is partly by design. It is favorable for the politicians to have youth as foot soldiers, but it is also because the young people have not demanded anything higher than that. In their participation in the political party, many of them are happy to be the stone throwers, bodyguards, and that kind of thing. So I guess young people are also not demanding higher level participation.
Unemployment has for the last decade topped the agenda of the Kenyan government. The current government is no exemption and has come up with an ambitious program dubbed Uwezo Fund. Uwezo Fund is a 6 billion fund that seeks to economically empower youth and women. Other related programs include the Youth Fund and the less publicized but hands-on Kenya Youth Empowerment Program that is spearheaded by KEPSA.
The criteria used is 18 to 35, and as an individual you must have an enterprise which is running, and then we can be able to borrow you money.
Youth Fund inapeana 45,000. 45,000 ukiangalia kama mashini ya vinyozi peke yake, mashini moja ya kinyozi ile poa ni 15,000. Ukikuja uangalie kiti ya kinyozi inaenda about 8,000 na ulikuwa umepoa about 45,000. Ukiangalia membership ya hiyo organization wako about 30 people wale registered members na wote ni active. Utafanya nini na hiyo pesa? Ni pesa kidogo sana, alafu pesa yenyewe inapewa kwa ile in terms of discrimination. Ni nani unajua pale na wewe ni nani? Alafu imekuja pia kwa ile njia ya tribe. Ni kabila gani ina host ile ofisi ya Youth Fund? Unaona? Sasa hizi ni ethnicity inaingilia pale katikati. Sasa inabaki njia fulani. Youth Fund kwangu mimi kama inaweza channeliwa direct kwa zile organization already ziko empowered, ziweze kuwa support, ama waweze CBOs zile ziko katika hiyo eneo waweze kujimanage na waselect wale watu wanafikiri wako capable ama wako na hiyo experience ya kumanage hiyo fund, inaweza kuwa smart sana katika society yetu.
We are fully aware that young people must be trained on enterprise and entrepreneurship before we throw money at them. So what we are doing is we are doing what we call pre-disbursement training for those applicants who have applied for the money and are now ready to get the money. We take them through a disbursement training, a pre-disbursement training program, to just let them know the basics of doing business or of the group dynamics and mapping out of business opportunities.
As a person, I'm doing a lot of mentorship of young women to enable them participate in governance and economic development processes. I do sensitization talks with them, I do demonstrations on certain things, a whole selection of subjects, adolescent sexual and reproductive health, career counseling, mentorship in terms of life skills and that kind of thing. And even just basically teaching them, how to be a girl and the power of a girl, how to avoid making mistakes in your life and everything. Apart from that, I'm also working very closely with the youth employment system. And this one is basically to promote youth employment. And for me, my contribution to that entire agenda is to get young people to start speaking about business opportunities that have not been exploited, so that as many of us can be exploited. Separately, I'm also working on an international debate forum where I'm an international debate trainer. And in this initiative, I travel to the venue of the international debate forum for debate, where we build the capacity of people to begin engaging each other through debate and very organized discourse, so that we can teach young people more of boardroom debate than the street debate that is evident in most parts of the world. That's me as a person. Within the organization that I work for, we are running a number of projects to promote youth participation in governance and economic development. The organization is Africa Youth Trust. We've been able to run programs to promote the fight against corruption, and especially youth participation in the fight against corruption. We have been able to promote youth participation in the lawmaking process and even influence the decision-making process in Kenya. We have been able to monitor reforms, and especially reforms in the area of procurement, the health service delivery, and the local authorities. We have been able to conduct civic education, both civic education on the constitution and civic education for voter education targeting the elections. And then we are running an economic empowerment project where we do entrepreneurship trainings, labor market trainings, career counseling, referral to microfinance institutions, business incubation mechanisms, and then we provide information meetings periodically to the informal settlements in Nairobi to as many young people as are interested in getting information. At regional level, we have been working on the establishment of an East Africa Community Youth Council. So far, we've been able to develop a draft East Africa Community Youth Policy, which may be adapted very soon by the Sectoral Council of the East Africa Community. And we are hopeful that the East Africa Community Youth Council shall be established at least 1 year after the policy has been passed. And at the AU level, we are trying to build the capacity of young people to monitor the
challenges, as usual, is that young people, we have a microwave generation. Instant coffee, instant everything. Everybody wants things to be done very fast with digital era. So then the challenge is that young people are not patient, which sometimes is good and is bad. The other challenge is that sometimes people rush through this process with the intention of just getting money and not repaying. But we have quite a lot of young people out there who just want this money to do business and repay back. Because as you are aware, this is a revolving file. You need to take the money and then you pay, and other people are able to access the same money.
First challenge is the fact that the youth really don't care about problems. So it takes them quite a long time to begin taking ownership of their problems and wanting to deal with them. Those who care are then victimized by the young people who don't care. So, for example, you find other young people asking a youth who has taken initiative in this community, who has given you the mandate to come and mobilize us, who has sent you, that kind of thing. And sometimes they don't believe in themselves that someone can just take initiative, walk out of their living room and decide I'm going to take initiative to clean the community, for example. The other problem is the lack of political goodwill from amongst actors within the government and some of the society actors. A lot of the young people are viewed as very negative, and therefore it becomes difficult to introduce the agenda of youth to most actors. But there has been a lot of progress made with some of the ministries we have been working with, for example, the Africa Youth Trust, Ministry of East African Community, Ministry of Youth Affairs have been very receptive, Ministry of Gender have been very receptive to our work. And that is because we sold to them a different face of the youth. And for me, I think that is an assignment that can be carried on by as many young people as possible, that we endeavor to constantly show a positive image of the young people as we relate to the older generation, so that we make it even easier for them to interact with the youth. The final challenge is financing. There has been a bit of a change of focus to focus on young people and the work that young people do, but a lot of it is a stock. Very few people are putting substantial amounts of money in ensuring that then the youth are engaged. Everyone will talk youth, say big things about youth, and then invest a very small amount of money and probably invest a big amount of money on minerals and oil, for example. So are we able to then begin having a conversation that will justify a big investment for youth? Because then when we get the resources, then means we have the means to implement some of the programs that will empower young people.
Despite the high gloomy unemployment picture, there's need for a paradigm shift in what is actually regarded as employment. The country's higher learning institutions produce an average of 1 million graduates annually, whose sole focus is accessing white-collar jobs than the less glamorous informal jobs. Interesting, it's the country's informal sector that has been providing the bulk of jobs in the country.
Vijana wengi wamekuja wakaanza kuform into groups, small scale business, wamekuwa wakizifanya, wengine wamefungwa kama hizo car wash, wengine wamefungwa vinyozi, wengine wamefungwa mashushine, ili waweze kupata ile ajira yao ya kila siku. Mayouths wako na mengi sana ya kufanya. For example, kama hii area hapa kwetu, area Japos, chini ya Mnazi, Blessed, na hii bezi ya Bena, ukikuja utapata vijana wako na ideas na wako na nguvu mob sana za kufanya job, lakini hawajapata mtu wote ule anakuja kauliza, mko ready nikiwapatia mashini ya car wash, mnaweza osha gari kwa njia mzuri? Mko ready nikiwapatia mashini ya kusiaga, mnaweza siaga vizuri? Hakuna support. Ukiangalia kama government institutions wameblock vitu zao, na hizi vitu mingi zinafanyika na familia moja katika government yetu. Ukienda kwa NGOs zile ziko kwa hii country, mingi za hizo NGOs pia zinaraniwa na familias. Alafu unapata 25% ndio wanaleta hapa chini. Kwa hiyo 25% pia wakileta hapa chini, 10% peke yake ndio inafika hapa chini. 15% inaenda kwa mfuko ya mtu fulani. Kwa njia fulani tena ukienda pale juu, 75% ni watu kadhaa wanaishi nazo pale juu.